So we are live. Hello everybody. Bella Beluga here. Elena. June 1st. Really excited today to do the first episode of what I am tentatively calling Sharing Space, where I'm going to be bringing on some guests who are going to be talking about all kinds of things that in some way touch astrology, because it's such an omnipresent thing, and I feel like you can find it kind of everywhere and mixed in with a lot of stuff. So today, we've got Nova here, who's going to be talking to us about numerology and astrology. Welcome to the, I guess, podcast, stream, whatever this is,
Yeah, it
Nova.
is.
Yeah, how's it going?
Great. It's going pretty well. How about you?
Good, good. Yeah, I'm really, really pleased to be able to talk to you today. This kind of thing has been something that I've been wanting to do for a while, and thank you for being my first guest.
Yeah, I didn't realize I was being your first guest. I had figured you had done this before, so this is really cool. I'm actually honored to be your first guest. That's awesome.
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Nova. I am known as novalunareadings. I am a multifaceted spiritualist. I do everything from astrology to numerology to dream interpretations, tarot cards, runes, Reiki, you name it. I'm kind of just dabbling a little bit of everything.
Right.
Um, I'm very much like a jack of all trades, and not necessarily a master of none because I really am quite versed in a lot of different areas. But I pride myself on just having that big variety. That's probably the Aquarian in me
Mm.
saying that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you feel comfortable sharing like your big three?
Sure. So my big three, I am a Capricorn Sun and Moon and Taurus Rising, but I have an Aquarius Stellium. So
Oh, interesting. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So I'm very much Saturnian, Venusian mix. It's that's just
Mm.
that combination.
Oh, I
Um,
love that. Like, I have Venus and Taurus trine Saturn and Capricorn, so I'm like, yes, like
ooh, that
Venus
is good.
Saturn, like, so cozy.
Yeah, yeah. Saturn's a very interesting planet, but I have a lot of, it's a lot of history with it. But
Yeah,
for it's all been good. It's all been good. Well,
yeah,
mostly good,
mostly, yeah.
mostly.
So of all the things that you practice, though, we're gonna be, yeah, I guess talking a lot about numerology today. As I said, I know like pretty much nothing about it. Like, if you asked me to define it right now, I couldn't. So, could you define what numerology is and like kind of how you got started? What's your education like? Just, what is it, for you?
Sure. So numerology is basically the study of numbers, just
Mm-hmm.
like the literal definition. Excuse me. But it's really all over the place because every number that we see has a completely different meaning, and
Okay.
combinations have different meanings, which is stuff that most people I feel like don't really notice.
Mm.
Um, I was actually talking with my family members about this. Uh, was it yesterday or the day before? We were talking about like favorite numbers that resonate with us, and the
Mm-hmm.
meanings that they have, and basically how they've played different roles in our lives. So your favorite number, lucky number, you might see that number a lot, and it actually corresponds to a certain meaning. Um,
Okay.
all of us also have different numbers for our life path, our soul purpose, and our names even have numerology attached to them because you can break down letters into numbers, and that completely changes um, how we view the world, which is just such a cool way of viewing things.
Mm.
I yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I got started with numerology a few years ago. A former best friend of mine got me into Enneagram, which is a it's basically a numerology based system
Mm-hmm.
that has Christian roots, and that was kind of what got me started looking into numerology in general. Because very much how we have zodiac signs, Enneagram, it's the same kind of thing. Each numbers we have are like our personality types.
Mm.
Um, but also, that led to learning about life path numbers, which is the main way that people look at numerology, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. Being like, what are you destined to work on in this lifetime?
Mm-hmm.
And that is determined by your own life path. And each number corresponds to a different thing. You get your life path number by adding up your month, day, and year, and each one corresponds to a different phase of your life, and then the added up digits basically correspond to your overall life meaning. So, for
Okay.
example, I'm born in December,
Mm-hmm.
so I add 1 and 2, and that is 3, and 3 is like a number of creativity, and creativity has
Mm.
become such a big phase of this portion of my life.
Mm.
Um, Phases are denoted by Saturn returns as well. That's one aspect of intersectionality.
Mm. Okay.
Um, so, your first phase based on your month is from when you're born to your first Saturn return. The second one based on your day is between first and second Saturn returns, and then anything after your second Saturn return is considered your year. And the
Mm.
whole aspect combined is 5. So, for example, I have 3 for my month, 3 for my day, and 8 for my year. You
Mm-hmm.
add those up, you get 14. Add the 1 and 4 together, and you get 5. So I am a life path 5, which is all about like change and um, doing like a life full of adventure. And this lifetime has been crazy adventure, to say the least. That's for certain. But
Wow.
yeah, it's like that kind of stuff. That I feel like if people would look into, it would create so much more meaning.
Mm.
Um, Stuff. The other way that numerology has become popular lately is like angel numbers. So people are
Mm.
like, oh, 1111, make a wish, when
Mm-hmm. Oh
1111
yeah,
is,
I see a lot of that. Yeah.
yeah, but that's an angel number. Those repeating ones are the most common.
Mm-hmm.
You find numbers that repeat, like 1717, for example, or
Mm-hmm.
3663, stuff like that. Those are
Mm.
also angel numbers. Technically, every number is an angel number. It's just what's going to resonate with you. But the most
Right.
commonly accepted ones are ones that repeat or sandwich, basically.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So you were, I guess,
Um,
asking like, where does that come in with astrology?
yeah, well, I mean, gosh, I just now I have even more questions. Like
Yeah,
it's
there's a lot. It goes really
yeah,
deep.
it's so like, it really is one of those things where it's like, I can see like I think with astrology, I had to kind of wait for it to like click in the sense of like being able to see it functioning as
Hmm.
kind of a system in the world around me, rather than just this kind of abstract sort of concept that like you just get in bits and pieces. I needed to like have the lived experience of that, right? And so I
Right.
feel like, being able to, what it sounds like, kind of shifting your perspective from, being somebody who just looks at numbers in sort of a mundane way, like that's just, it's just a character, it's just, a flat sort of empty piece of data, I guess, in a way,
Yeah,
to looking at it as something with significance, is a really interesting thought shift.
it is. It's a very jarring thought shift.
Mm.
And especially in the past year and a half, I've had a very big spiritual awakening in the past year and a half.
Mm.
Um, During that time, I was working in retail, and numbers pop up everywhere, and so that really,
Oh, sure,
I think,
yeah.
solidified it for me. Just working as a cashier, just when you're working with numbers all day, yeah, it completely
Right.
just
You're literally
changed
just
everything.
interfacing with them constantly. Like you're just having this constant conversation almost, it sounds like.
Yes, yeah,
Mm.
very much a constant conversation with my spirit guides through
Mm.
numbers, definitely.
Yeah. Wow. So, well, and that's, now that you mentioned that, would you be comfortable talking about, you mentioned like angel numbers and then you mentioned, communicating with your spirit guides
Sure.
through numbers.
Yeah.
How do those connect for you?
Um, Okay, good, very quick and easy example.
Mm.
555.
Mm-hmm.
You've probably, if you've seen on Twitter, maybe people are like freaking out. They see like why 555.
Mm-hmm.
555 is associated with tower moments or the tower card in tarot,
Ah.
and it comes quick. Like when you see that number, brace for impact. Like that's a very common one that I'm just like, okay, I just know something's coming. Um,
Wow.
yeah, which is weird. I haven't seen that one in a while, but
Mm.
um,
Well, I
yeah, that's a
guess maybe
pretty.
now that you've mentioned it, don't press your luck. I don't know.
Well, I mean, honestly, this entire Mercury retrograde has been a tower card
Mm.
after tower card after tower moment, just like
True.
nonstop. I cannot tell you how many plot twists have happened this Mercury. They've mostly been good, thankfully,
Right.
but man, it has been chaos.
Yeah, but you still have to be like ready I mean, this is one of those things. So actually, this raises a good question. So is it possible to do like predictive work with numerology, like in the way that you'd like cast a chart in astrology?
Yes, absolutely. Like I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned before, with like life path numbers,
Mm-hmm.
um, you can kind of predict like the themes of people's lives and some of the things that they'll experience.
Mm.
Um, for example, I find people with life path sixes, that's my mom's life path number, and also one of my spiritual mentors is life path number. They're
Mm-hmm.
very family oriented, and family issues are a big part of their life, and wanting to raise a family and relationships are huge. That's a good example of that. For me, with my life path five, I know I've traveled a lot and
Mm.
gotten to do a lot of crazy things. So I imagine that's something you could look at. Um, People like path threes are very creative, and art and music, I'm sure, are big parts of their lives. And
Mm.
it's been a big part of my phase of my life so far. So yeah, I think there is definitely a predictive aspect to it.
Mm.
And that's one of the services that I have. The other one is actually using dice.
Mm.
Like for like Dungeons and Dragons, you would have like dice.
Right. Yeah, I read with
Roll a
Astro
d20, roll a
Dice,
d6,
so
whatever.
yeah.
You could use those I've used those in the past for
Mm.
readings as well. It's actually another service that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't done one in a long time actually, but those
Interesting.
are
Yeah.
real. Those are always really cool. And the cool thing about the world that we live in now is I can easily Google something if I get a bunch of numbers together that I really don't know, which happens more
Mm.
often than not with dice readings,
Mm-hmm.
because it's very, very rare that a repeating number is going to come up with dice.
Right.
So usually it's something like, I don't know, like 856. Like I would never even know what the hell that means. I can add them up. So if I did that really quick, 8 plus 5 is 13, plus 6 is 19. So that's 1 plus 9, which is 10/1.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what that is. But
Mm.
I don't know exactly what the number means. And, I can easily just Google that and see what it is, which is actually really helpful in
Yeah.
knowing. Because otherwise you have to create a whole dictionary. And I can't
Mm.
imagine numerologists whenever. Like, I don't really know the history of numerology. I really should look that up. I feel like now that I think
Mm.
about it, but
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like they would. They've had it so much harder. Same with like traditional astrologists before the internet. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're so fortunate now to have the internet and, all of these different methods for just connecting like instantly with all of this knowledge and with all of these other people. It's really incredible. I mean, I think it's an amazing time to be, a diviner, to be a spiritual practitioner. Um, yeah, I mean, this is all very Neptune and Pisces stuff. Um,
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, definitely very Neptune and Pisces. That is true.
mm, yeah, and I mean, I think especially with at least I don't know what like Neptune generation you were in. I was
I'm in
Neptune
Capricorn.
Capricorn. Yeah, and so like
Yeah.
that sextile, right, to a lot of us, I think has been that kind of like opening sort of like, hey, have you considered like trying to ground sort of, this stuff in reality some way? Have you considered starting like a
Grab some
diviner's
stuff. Oh my
business?
God.
You
Good
know?
question. Good question. It's hard to do that,
Mm,
honestly.
yeah.
Um, like I think of like my best friend who I guess is interested in astrology,
Mm-hmm.
and believes in like the angel numbers. Like she's on her own spiritual awakening kind of journey now.
Mm,
But when we first met, like she was so skeptical of a lot of these numbers and signs and symbols,
mm-hmm.
and that was because she didn't really see reality. She was very practical in
Mm,
reality, kind of.
mm-hmm.
And I don't know if there is a way to really ground that in reality. I think you just one of those things you have to trust spiritually,
Mm, yeah.
because I mean it's definitely something that a lot of people experience. So it's there's some that's kind of the only way you can ground yourself in that is that there are so many other people around the world that experience the same kind of stuff.
Right. Like, and that's one of the amazing things about the internet is being able to share, you know, essentially kind of your own personal testimony and experiences and, instantly, be able to talk to other people who've also had similar things and, collaborate to advance knowledge, essentially, the kind of pollination that would have taken months or years before, now is just like I just post on Twitter like, hey, any other Libra risings have like weird dreams last night with like, the moon in Gemini or whatever.
Yeah, it's like that quick, um, which is great for business. I love dream interpretations are actually one of my favorite things to do.
Mm.
So I'm just that's always great for business. Whenever
Yeah,
that
do
kind of
you
stuff comes up.
notice like any kind of predictable changes in bookings for that kind of thing based on sort of what I guess the astro weather has been like or sort of
Yeah, actually I do.
really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, usually during Mercury retrograde, I don't get as many bookings, which is
Mm.
also quite interesting. I find service
Mm-hmm.
slows down quite a bit.
Mm.
But usually
Right.
during like new moons, full moons, other planetary retrogrades, like
Mm-hmm.
business does decently well.
Mm.
It just comes and goes. I'd really like it to become something that's more consistent. That's a big goal of mine in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Um, because I mean, the business side of things was just started like a little over a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's there's still a lot more
Sure, but
that
I
I
mean,
have on the table
congratulations on your
to do.
first year, though.
Thank you. It's exciting to
Mm.
have, I guess, this business for like a true business for a whole year. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, it feels I've I've been on the same journey over the last year. I actually got severed from my previous position due
Wow.
to, COVID stuff.
Yeah.
And I was just like, all right, well, I spent a lot of like 2018 and 2019 and early 2020 like crying about this job before I had to start work, even when I was working at home. So, maybe this is what I needed because I was just,
Yeah. No,
yeah.
yeah. I see the pandemic as something that was very needed. It definitely reset a lot of
Mm,
people's lives, and it helped me out actually quite a bit.
yeah.
I was like on the verge of maybe failing out of college
Oh,
right
wow.
before the
Okay.
pandemic. Was just tanking mentally at the time, and
Yeah.
the pandemic was great in allowing me to just reset, push through, and basically crawl my way to graduation for college. Because
Mm,
well, that was during my senior year semester,
okay.
so that was just great for me. And when I took my retail job, and just allowed me to just kind of reset and work from the ground up, and then also um, helped a lot with my spiritual awakening because
Mm.
it gave me a lot of time to think because you're not doing a ton as a cashier except checking
Right.
out customers. So
Yeah.
that was I was in my head a lot and just thinking and brainstorming.
Mm,
I spent a lot of time on the new pricing they just launched during the retail towards the end before I quit a couple months ago.
yeah, well, congratulations on that.
Thank
And
you.
I mean, and graduating and like making it through, like, yeah,
Yeah,
God, I mean, do you feel like sharing your age? Like, what,
I'm 24.
oh,
I've yeah.
oh, okay. So you just got out of that, like, 12th house year stuff, yeah. And
Yeah,
it's,
I've been in my first house year for
mm-hmm,
like half a year. Well, it's been
mm,
literally 5 months
wow,
now.
okay. So, yeah, big stuff.
Yeah,
Jupiter return stuff, I guess, as well. Do you have Jupiter in Aquarius or in Pisces?
I have an Aquarius. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. Jupiter and Aquarius. I guess it was a lot of brainstorming. I don't know. I didn't really like. I don't think it changed my life in that standpoint, except for just making more ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, now that Jupiter's in Aries now, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now it's in Aries. Now that everything is kicking off and going
Right.
crazy.
Which is great. I mean, God, I have been just like, I'm a Libra rising, Gemini sun, and Aries moon.
Gotcha.
And I
Ooh.
have, yeah, my moon is at 3 degrees of Aries. So,
Oh my! Wow, you
yeah.
really are a Gemini-esque, which is great. I love Geminis. That's
But
good.
this
I'm surrounded by them in my
conjunction,
life, so I don't care.
yeah, like, and I have Mercury and Gemini as well. The new moon was actually just on my Mercury, so like I've been super keyed up like the last 2 weeks, which is how I ended up whipping all of this like sharing space stuff together. I've just been like this like Jupiter and Aries sort of like
Yeah, no, you put it
blur.
together quick. I was very
It feels
impressed. Like just
so good, like, right? Like, I mean, Jupiter and Pisces was great for like brainstorming and like working things out like
yeah, it
spiritually.
was. Yeah,
But I was like, I'm ready to go. Like, I want to do stuff. Like, I have ideas and I want to put them into practice now.
yeah,
You
for
know?
sure, for sure.
Yeah. um, yeah. So let's see. So I'm trying to think. What were some other questions that I had about numerology? Um, hmm. I guess. Oh, what are some misconceptions about it that you'd like to clear up?
Um, I guess there aren't really. I feel like there aren't a ton. I think the biggest misconception again is just people not realizing it.
Mm.
Also, I don't know if I believe in the 1111 make a wish kind of thing. I know
Mm.
1111 is a very spiritual number, and I guess you could use that number in a way where you're petitioning
Mm-hmm.
to the gods to help you out or spirit guides, whatever whatever you believe in.
Sure.
So I guess that kind of makes sense. It does go to four, which is a number of protection from your. So like it makes sense. I think it adds up.
Mm-hmm.
Just I don't know. I feel like that's. I just don't. I think it kind of when people say that it kind of partially dismisses the power of numerology. It's
Mm.
just like a meme or whatever kind of thing.
Mm.
um, but that, I mean, not that number memes aren't fun. I mean, it's always fun, 420 and 69, stuff like that. The common stuff. It's always fun to hear
Sure.
that, and I love those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Um, funnily enough, 420 and 69 both add up to six.
I
I
was just
just thought
going
of
to
that now.
ask you, I was like, what is the significance behind both of those? Like, now I'm just thinking about, like, yeah,
Uh,
common numbers like that.
so let's see. I'm not 100% sure.
Mm
Um, hmm. I don't know. I'm looking through my sources now, trying to see if I can put something together here.
hmm. Mm hmm.
Um, well, six I said is very community
Mm hmm.
aspect, grounding aspect. Six also service from what I see. Also an earth number, which makes sense because earth signs do end up. I know smoking a lot. I don't, but I know a lot of my friends that are that earth energy smoke a lot of
Yeah.
weed.
Yeah. Guilty.
Um, well, I'm Aries. Oh, I know a lot of Aries placements too.
Yeah.
Aries placements are definitely up there.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe that's kind of what it's. looking at. Also,
Mm.
666 is the devil card in tarot,
Mm.
which is also Capricorn, symbolic of Capricorns.
Oh, you know what? That would make sense because I've seen a lot of people talk about, and like through personal experience, I would agree that like hemp, and by extension, cannabis is an herb of Saturn.
Yes,
Because it
yes. So
acts as like a depressant,
that's why I
like,
argue that the biggest donors are actually
mm,
Capricorn placements.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we don't talk enough about how they used to be talked about as very like lecherous, and like an indulgent, in a way.
No. Capricorns have a very weird reputation. I
Mm.
actually ended up in a Discord server for Capricorn placements for
Mm-hmm.
a while. I actually met my best friend through there and my one of my mentors, and it was a
Oh,
really
cool.
really cool place. But what's interesting is that we all felt like the same energy of just like Capricorns get a bad reputation for no
Mm-hmm.
reason. It's just like because it's a very different kind of energy. Saturnian
Mm.
energy is very different, and it's I think maybe very difficult for some people to understand and connect with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, it's just kind of interesting um, how that kind of energy is played out and seen by so many others.
Mm-hmm.
But it does, that does connect back to 666 is also being a number of reflection.
Mm.
So Capricorns, I feel like, are very very reflective,
Mm-hmm.
especially those that are very heavy in Earth energy.
Mm.
So it makes a lot of sense, I guess, like how that's all interconnected. That was just a
Yeah.
very weird tangent, but I kind of looped it back around.
No, I mean that was, I mean, I go on a lot of tangents here. It's like I set, like an original topic, but then where it kind of spreads out from there is its own business. Like this is why I have been wanting to have these kinds of conversations is
Sure,
because,
yeah,
my Mercury in Gemini is like there's something really special about the live conversation and about kind
that's
of
true.
the
Yeah.
sharing of the life energy, I guess, in a really kind of, I don't know,
I like
yeah,
that.
like just, yeah, sharing voices and like hearing the inflections and, the kind of spontaneous nature of it. It's not writing where you can sit and deliberate and backspace or scratch it out or whatever. Like when you say things, you just say things and they come out, and then you move on. That thing is already in the past.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with that
Mm.
100%. Yeah, I have a Sag Mercury, so I totally get what you mean
Ah, okay,
with
yeah.
that same kind of thing. I'm thinking of starting a podcast myself in the near future.
Mm.
I don't know how near is near, but it's definitely something I'm looking into for sure because I have a couple of ideas for what I want to do.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think that, it's easy, it's like, yeah, easier than ever, really, now.
Yeah.
And you can kind of do it in sort of whatever combination of formats that works for you. Like for me, the reason that I like doing this over Twitch is that, I can be sitting here working on the crafts that I work on and, having these conversations in the meantime. Like I talk about my space
Oh,
as sort of like the witch hut, like out on kind of the edge of town where like you're sitting around and like spinning flax and doing kind of creative things together and having these conversations and sharings of knowledge and stuff. So this is what sharing space is about. It's
yeah. No, it's really
simulating that
cool.
atmosphere.
Yeah, no, I love spiritual um, like conversations. I think are so cool
Mm.
because we don't get to have them with a lot of people, so
Mm.
it's always something really cool to be able to have.
Right. It just feels so good to be able to just like actually talk about, because that's another thing is, Twitter is great. I spend a lot of time on Twitter. I know a lot of people spend time on Instagram and all of
Hmm.
this, but nothing is the same as having, yeah, a live conversation with somebody
I
about the
absolutely
thing that
agree.
you're passionate about, like being able to say these words. And I don't know, there's just something really, really, special about it. Yeah.
I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, no, I've been streaming on and off on another account,
Mm-hmm.
Nostalgic, which is all like nostalgia and gaming and
Oh,
the
really?
typical content creation kind of stuff. Yeah,
Oh, wow,
and it's just
awesome.
cool to like connect with people over like the shared interests of gaming and
Mm-hmm.
music and other kinds of stuff. I think is all so awesome.
Yeah.
I've had a good journey with that.
Oh man, now so numerology, and because I'm always like when I think about something I'm like, okay, astrology and this, because it's like, I see it kind of
Yeah,
permeating stuff. So what about numerology and gaming? I'm really curious about that. Like I've been
that's a
thinking a
good
lot about
question. I've
astrology
never
and
thought of it
gaming.
before, to be honest. That's a really interesting idea. I mean, so obviously Dungeons and Dragons, we know that's
Mm-hmm.
the most common, I think, gaming and numbers thing
Yeah,
you can really think of together.
sure.
The other one that I think is pretty big is something like chess, where you're looking at strategy with moves and the numbers
Mm-hmm.
there. I imagine there's some numerological pattern you can use through there.
Mm.
Yeah, it's stuff that you can easily just get lost in. I've never thought of like really diving in before, but I know if I ever really wanted to, forget it.
Uh-huh.
The rabbit hole just goes so deep. It really does.
Yeah, it's just, when you work with these systems, when you learn these languages and learn to, I guess I would say, hear or perceive them in kind of the fabric of things around you, it's just like it becomes like inescapable almost. It's like you can't not like at least have that lens sort of coloring your perception in a way.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Mm. Um, so I was also thinking about what about can you use numerology for like so I guess I'm curious about the life path stuff. Like how would people use that in a way to kind of orient themselves in a direction?
Okay.
And also, do you think that that is that one of the better places for people to get started with numerology, or
Yeah.
where would you recommend people get started?
Yeah, Life Path is just I think is a good way to get started for
Mm-hmm.
sure. Enneagram was also great. Enneagram again, one of those like a junk personality kind of thing. That was
Mm-hmm.
something that was actually really helpful, even though it
Mm.
doesn't fully connect to. Well, actually, you know what? It does actually quite connect quite a bit to numerology in itself. Now that
Mm-hmm.
I think about it, just like just thinking about like numerology right now and Enneagram, it
Mm-hmm.
actually fits really well together.
Mm.
Like I'm looking at one of my note sheets right now, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of like the list. I'm like, damn, this actually fits kind of perfectly, which I wasn't expecting. Which is kind of cool.
Mm.
I love learning new stuff just on the fly.
Right.
Um, and that's what these conversations really help with, I guess. Just like
Mm-hmm.
learning new stuff. I'm learning a lot, and it's only been
Yeah.
like a half hour. It's been really cool. Um, Yeah, Life Path is another really great one because it's very
Mm-hmm.
commonplace and you can find stuff on Life Path numbers everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think, in terms of like how it can orient your life,
Mm-hmm.
you can see like what themes are going to be very common in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And you might not even realize, like, hey, I've been traveling a lot. Let me see if I have a life path 5. Or, I really want to get into an artistic career path. Let me see if I have a life path 3 that supports that.
Mm-hmm.
Things of that nature. And
Mm.
also, people of different life paths are compatible with different life paths the same way different astrological signs are more compatible. It's the same kind
Oh,
of.
interesting.
Yeah, that's another good one. Um, I know, for example, like 3, 6, 9 are very compatible with each
Mm-hmm.
other. Um, 1 and 5 go very well together. Let's see. Looking at a couple of others. 2 and 8 go well. 2 and 4. Actually, yeah, 2, 4, 8 all go well together. Like, there's different combinations that you see are just really, really good. And then
Mm-hmm.
there are some that are not so great. So I'm looking here like 2 and 5 don't
Mm-hmm.
seem to go very well together. Neither do 4 and 5. Um, looks like 7 and 4 and 5, 7, 4, 5. So like different combinations of numbers
Hmm.
also will go better with different combinations of numbers, which is cool. I really like that. There's so much depth to numerology in that regard as well, and that's another very comparable thing to astrology, I guess, in that
Mm.
regard.
So let me see. So, could you walk me through how do I calculate
Sure.
my life path
So,
number?
are you? I guess you'd have to be comfortable sharing your birth date for that.
Yeah, sure, I'm comfortable. So it's June 16th, 1990.
Okay, I'm gonna write that down. So looking at 06/16/1990, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Also, when you do the year, for anyone
Mm-hmm.
that's like doing it at home, do the full year. Don't do like just 90. Do 1990.
Right, the
Uh,
full actual year,
because it
yeah.
does give you a different result, and that's not going to be the accurate one. No, it
Mm.
can. It doesn't have to, but it can.
Hmm.
Um, okay. So we have for your first phase is 6.
Mm-hmm.
Second phase is 7. 18, 19 is what? 20? 1 plus 9 is 2. So that would equal 15, which is 6. So I believe you are life path 6 if I've done the math correctly. I'm just going to double check.
Okay.
1, 9, 10 plus 9. Yeah, yeah, 19, which is 20. Okay. Um, so you are life path 6, which is great. I've talked about life path 6 already earlier,
Mm.
where family and community are going to be just very, very big portions of your life.
Mm.
6 is actually, just looking at this source, it's actually earth energy, which is kind of cool.
Mm.
So a lot of like grounding and being at service to others,
Mm.
which actually sounds very Capricorn in nature now that I think about it. So yeah, see how like all of it connects. It's awesome.
Right, yeah.
You know, um, a big part of Six's lives I find is just finding a group to vibe with
Mm.
and just sticking with that, and finding that home base and operating from there. Um, I find people at life path 6s once they have struggles maybe sometimes having a stable family life, but once
Mm-hmm.
they do get it, they're just going to soar. Um,
Mm.
so it's just about finding your tribe. If family issues are a thing, I don't know any of your personal life.
Mm.
Working on those kinds of traumas. Those are all big parts to look into and see kind of where your life is going. Probably the first, really up to your first Saturn return was a lot of that, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now you're being asked with this 7, which is like this middle phase. It's going to be a lot of being alone, but it's also a lot of spirituality.
Hmm.
777 is one of my favorite angel numbers because it's the most spiritual, along with 1111. You're
Mm-hmm.
basically like um, getting a lot of spiritual upgrades in this second phase of your life.
Mm.
And actually, even just regular number 7 is that as well. Um,
Interesting.
just not, it's I see non-conforming on here as well. Elements given were air and water,
Mm-hmm.
which I never thought of about water. I know air, but water is a little surprising, but I guess it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking things like Scorpio and Pisces who are very inward,
Mm. True. Very true. Yeah.
or Aquarius even if we're talking air,
Yeah.
because how
Yeah. Oh,
reflective Aquarians
absolutely.
are. I just called myself out a little bit, but well, Gemini too, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of those like I try to always go to bat for Gemini because I feel like we get an unnecessary amount of slander. Um, but
Yeah,
I
Gemini's another
can
one.
agree that like we can be really bad at like texting back because
Oh my
oh
God,
boy.
I won't even. I won't go there because I honestly I have a Gemini mom and I could literally be like stuck in a ditch and she wouldn't answer her phone for hours. I swear. My phone would die and it might get stuck there forever. I wouldn't know. Um,
Uh,
that's actually really funny thinking out that.
hmm.
Um, God, no, I'm
Wow.
not gonna roast my best friend. That would be rude. But she knows what if she does listen to this. I don't think she will, but if she does listen to this, she knows exactly what I'm referring to with texting.
Yeah, it's air sign stuff is just it I think that that's one of the things that people do forget sometimes about Aquarius, like weirdly enough. Like I don't know if people just like, hear the name and just automatically like go, "Oh, Aquarius, like water sign," right? But even when people know that it is an air sign, I feel like people still don't kind of treat it with that airiness. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's still a lot of metaphors about like walls and boundaries and kind of just
Yeah, like
hard sort of
Aquarius is
physical
known as a
stuff.
water bear, which is hilarious.
Right, yeah. But it's like Aquarius is the container, I guess, like in a way, of that water. But it's like there's more, I don't know, people kind of make Aquarius just like Capricorn too. Um,
Yeah, I'm Capricorn known as the sea goat on that note.
mhm.
So yeah, I literally Aquarius and Capricorn, the similarities are crazy. I can't believe how many Capricorn and Aquarius placements I have. It's unreal.
Oh, I mean it's great though, and I mean that makes a lot of sense. Like I tend to gravitate towards, I have Saturn square my ascendant,
Mm,
in my fourth house. Like, that Saturnian energy is very just fundamental, for me.
yeah, for
Very
me
kind
it's
of like
Sun
comfortable.
square Saturn with eighth and
Mm.
12th houses, so that's fun.
Oh, yeah, I see. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's a combo to say the least. But um, yeah, Saturnian energy, like like I said before, it's been a very rewarding
Mm-hmm.
lifetime to say the least. Just a very difficult one, but it's been rewarding.
Mm. Yeah. Are there, so I know people talk about like I have two separate questions, I guess, but before I forget both of them, I'll just hit you with both of them.
Okay.
A, I know people talk a lot about like numbers associated with the planets, but I see a lot of different like lists or like, some variations between them. And then what
Oh,
was the second question?
I'm looking this up right now.
Mm.
Oh, I see. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of these different lists. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 9 planets, 9 numbers. Yeah, there's a few different sources from the looks of it.
Mm-hmm.
Other than one is the sun, two is the moon.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be very common.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because I was thinking about, like you were saying earlier, that like I think it was 555 specifically was kind of tower stuff, and I was trying to think. I was like, I can't remember if Mars is associated with
I'm
five
looking for
or
resources here. I see Mercury is associated with it. Actually, it's Mercury, yeah.
okay.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
This is really cool looking at like a couple of these different charts and seeing what they say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mercury is apparently 5,
Hmm.
which is crazy. It makes sense though.
Mm-hmm.
Um, 5 is a lot, like I said, a lot of travel,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, very mercurial. Yeah.
very mercurial, and like knowledge and things of that nature is very mercurial, so it makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. Um, I see 4. This is a Vedic astrology source, so I can't really use that. I'm not going to use that because I don't know Vedic astrology super
Mm,
well.
mm-hmm. Right.
Um,
And I just want to say that that's like really important to like be honest about. Like, I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
people want to
Oh,
just be
four's
like,
Uranus. Okay.
I just know kind of everything and I can just kind of, adopt sort of anything. And it's like, if you haven't worked with the system yet, like,
Yeah. No,
sort of,
I don't
yeah,
know the like I just like no.
yeah.
Four is Uranus apparently.
Okay.
Okay, so here we go. This list is seems to be the most consistent with what I've no. Yeah, this is the most consistent what I find.
Mm-hmm.
Sun is one, which makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. One is more like intuition and just like go getter, which reminds me
Mm.
more of Aries, but I get where the sun is from. Also, like
Mm-hmm.
that's the other thing. Like the
Well, the
12
sun
houses
is
and
exalted
the
in Aries,
numerology,
so
the
that
12
would make
houses, like
sense.
it adds up. Like the
Mm-hmm.
two combine
Mm.
very well, like 10 and 1,
Mm-hmm.
like
Oh,
go
yeah.
getting kind of thing yourself and career, stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
2 and 11 with like friendships and outward kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know, 3 and 12 is a weird one because 12 could be like hidden enemies. But
Mm-hmm.
3 I know is also friend group related.
Right. Yeah. So that can be that tension there.
That's a really interesting combo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, like, since all of those are house pairs that are square to each other, it's like
They are all square
those
to each other. Yep.
topics, right? Yeah. So those topics are all gonna, affect each
Communication
other.
is okay. 3 is communication.
Mm-hmm.
Friends are technically 11. So I guess communication and
Which, yeah, the third
hidden
house, communication, that kind
social
of thing.
activity. There we go. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a weird combination. That's a fun one. Um, so that's interesting. So Leo would technically be 1 through the system. Cancer would be
Mm-hmm.
2 with the
Mm-hmm.
moon. Jupiter 3, which
Mm.
is very interesting. Well, I guess that makes sense because I know Pisces is a very creative placement, even though Neptune has its
Mm-hmm.
own thing. But
Sure.
Sagittarius do have a bit of creativity in them. Sagittarius like a lot of very big like literature writing kind of
Mm.
placement from what I see. Every
Absolutely.
Sagittarius placement I know loves books, myself included. So
Yeah. And
I
like
see that.
Mercury and Sag for like poetry and stuff.
And
Mm-hmm.
333 is a number of like asking support from your spirit
Mm.
guides or your spirit guides
Interesting.
supporting you. So I guess
Okay.
like writing stuff like be it like journaling or whatever. I guess
Mm-hmm.
like just to get your thoughts out. I guess that's a support system in a way. That's
Mm.
kind of works. 4 is Uranus, which interesting that the number of protection is Uranian. That is
Mm.
really fascinating.
Hmm.
Um, even by traditional astrology standards, it makes sense with Saturn,
Mm-hmm.
because then it's like karmic protection and things of that
Right.
nature. I think
Yeah.
loosely fits into that pretty well. Um, but things like 444 also fit back to like this is where the system gets all crazy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
um, 5 with Mercury just makes too much sense. It's too perfect. I think think it's enough said. 666 being Venus.
Mm-hmm.
6
Mm.
being Venus, I guess, is self love and reflection. 666 is
Mm.
reflection.
Mm.
So even though that's also another weird one, it's associated with Capricorn.
Mm-hmm.
666 itself, but
Mm-hmm.
then just plain 6 is Venus,
Hmm.
which if you just did 6 houses, Virgo in nature, it's like it all just kind of very interesting
Yeah, I mean,
combination
there's a
there.
very like sympathetic relationship, between Venus and Saturn. I mean, the fact that Saturn is exalted in Libra, Venus clearly has a lot of
Yeah.
respect for Saturn.
Yeah, no, 666 has been a number that I just associate with, I've always associated with more Saturnian energy
Mm-hmm.
and karmic cycles. So it makes
Mm.
sense that it comes back to Venus, I think. That's kind of a
Mm.
cool number.
Mm.
Um, Neptune for 7 is just also another perfect one, with 7 being spiritual. It's just like, that's just right there. I don't have to go into that one much.
Right.
Um, 8, Saturn. So this is an interesting one because 888 is abundance.
Mm.
And again, going back to karma, if you have good karma, you get a lot of abundance. I feel like those kind of go hand in hand. I could
Mm-hmm.
see that one. And then Mars is 9. 999 is new beginnings, which is very
Mm.
Mars like, just new things coming in.
Right. Yeah,
So
that's that Aries like initiation kind of charging out,
yeah,
first
exactly.
day of
So
spring stuff. Yeah.
yeah, there's no Pluto on here.
Mm.
I
If you
don't, and I
had to
don't.
associate a number with
Well,
Pluto.
but you know what though? That Pluto being planet of cycles and new
Mm.
cycles makes perfect sense for nine because
Mm-hmm.
999 new beginnings, new karmic cycles. I actually am okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've seen people talk about like the outer planets as like higher octaves of like some of the planets. And I think if people
Hmm.
seen people talk about like Pluto as a, the more, or like also as like a more primordial form of some of the planets. So like
Mm-hmm.
Pluto as like a proto Mars, for example, or Uranus as, I think proto Mercury, kind of thing, like sort of
Uranus is
just the
proto
raw,
Saturn.
the raw version of, yeah, right, yeah, proto Saturn,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a. I definitely agree with that with Pluto, especially because just
Mm-hmm.
how unique of a planet Pluto is
Mm.
in a lot of different ways. Um, as we're seeing right now with the US's Pluto return. Like, it's just such a fascinating planet in terms of cycles and change, and it's one that I've really come to be fascinated by. I would say in the past year or so.
Mm.
It doesn't. I also have my best friend is Scorpio rising, and that kind of whole journey there. So
Oh, sure, yeah, I was gonna say, do you have any like Pluto aspects to like personal placements?
I don't believe I do unless I have Mercury conjunct Pluto, but I don't believe I do. I need to.
Mm.
I'm also going to double check that one. It's nice that I can just look stuff up on the fly.
Right. This is what I'm saying is it's amazing to be practicing, these, arts in 2022. I mean, imagine like what, old astrologers would have done if like they had, solar fire, astro gold or whatever, and they could just
Yeah,
sit there
right.
and cast a
Yeah.
million charts.
What a time we live. Pluto. Oh no, I do have Pluto stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uranus sextile Pluto, Mars sextile Pluto, and Pluto sextile MC.
Okay, yeah. So those are big contacts for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Especially Uranus sextile Pluto, which is almost exact.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow, yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's a big one there. Oh, I have Venus sextile Pluto too. Wow, that makes sense though.
Mm.
That's my
Right?
entire. It's basically my entire stellium, just sextile Pluto, which
Yeah.
and all of my tenth and especially my 10th house. Oh my god. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
That's a
Well, do I have
real
a
like
eighth house
intensification.
or seven? My Pluto is seventh. Okay.
Mm. Mm. Oh wow, okay. So that's a real interesting influence on your relationships then. Like,
Yes.
do you
Yes. I mean,
find like I've heard that Pluto in the first or seventh is like that you're a very kind of polarizing person sometimes. Like people can have a sort of love-hate relationship with you.
that's a little too on the nose.
Sorry, I didn't mean to strike too strike too deep.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, I can be a very polarizing person. I guess
Mm,
I used to be a lot more polarizing when
mm,
I was not the best person. I mean, mental health issues played a role in that, but
mm,
yeah, there's a time period where I just was not a good person, and I know that, and that's fine. It is what it is.
mm-hmm,
But I know back then I was very polarizing,
mm,
and I might have used it in the wrong way. I think, like
yeah.
in some good ways, but not all good ways.
Mm. Well, I mean, I think it's important to, at least recognize these things. Like, yeah, like I have Venus opposite Pluto, which has really, colored a lot of my relationships and,
Sure.
my behavior in them and the behavior that I've received. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, you have to be able to look at your past self with like compassion, but also understanding like I did do kind of, what I thought was maybe the best thing at the time, or, but,
Hmm.
in retrospect, maybe it wasn't. And these are the lessons that I've learned, and this is how I've changed my behavior going forward. And just,
Sure.
being able to kind of use that sort of Plutonian capacity for big change. Like, I always think of it as
Yeah.
like a lava flow, just like coming up like all this hot magma that hardens into an island.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. Just
Mm.
like the how powerful Pluto is in terms of change, and it's an energy that I haven't worked a lot with, but I'm beginning. I guess maybe I have inadvertently.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working a lot more with Mars and Pluto directly now.
Mm.
I feel like that's just kind of this newer phase that I'm coming into. Probably actually
Mm.
with Jupiter and Aries
Mm.
um, coming into my life. So that's very interesting that you bring that up because it's something that I'm like reflecting on now for sure.
Yeah. Well, this is the nice thing about, I was talking about the value of like having these conversations is that, the spirit of Mercury is, invited, is kind of invoked through conversation. And so there's so many messages that end up being passed just through, normal or quote unquote normal conversation. We open ourselves up to sharing messages and to, really learning from each other when you have these conversations about spiritual things. So,
Yeah, no, it's really cool just like have these kind of conversations and just open up
mm.
um, our viewpoints, I guess, and different ways of looking at things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Just how I love how interconnected the world is. Like it
Mm-hmm.
really is so cool. And just how many different people's viewpoints interconnect with each other, different
Mm.
cultures, religions, etc.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things about this world, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and this is the thing about, finding the, I guess, language that works for you in this kind of thing, or
Yeah,
languages, sometimes, because always tell people, like, if astrology doesn't click for you, like, that's okay. If, tarot doesn't click, if, numerology, if, whatever, like, there is something out there that will kind of flip that switch for you where you can recognize that in the world around you. And I think from there, like, you have to find your access point. And then from there, once you're sort of getting warmed up to, I guess, the system, if you will,
yeah,
like just expanding your intuition, then you're more able to be sympathetic with and understanding of and possibly educated in other
yeah,
languages. And so I feel like that's what I'm trying to do through through astrology is
yeah,
okay, this is my home point, but where does this lead to? What other paths are connected to this path?
yeah. No, I think that's such a great way of looking at the world, and one that I think is great to see because some people can be close-minded. So I love
Mm-hmm.
that open-minded viewpoint. It's something I really, really enjoy myself as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's also
Yeah, air
just
sign stuff, like we're kind of willing to let people broadcast their opinion, and you can kind of take it or leave it.
yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that.
Like,
So
that's because before we had this conversation, like, we had just met through Twitter. And
yeah,
I was like, but, you seemed cool. Like, I liked your Instagram posts. Like, I was like, all
thank you.
right, like, let's, this sounds good. Let's go. Like, I'm willing to just try out new stuff and try meeting new people and just having a really organic, I guess, conversation where it's just, what, where do we connect, I guess, and what new information do we have to share?
Absolutely. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's That's something I love. Again, something I also really love is just connecting with people.
Mm,
It's my favorite thing. Really, my favorite thing to do is just having deep conversation with people and learning more about them and more about myself in the process. It's awesome. I love that. So
yeah.
it's glad I'm super cool that this whole talk has happened, and um, I have a lot more information now to look into already for numerology.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say because we're gonna come up to our first break here,
Yes.
so that we can, get up and stretch, and so, I recommend that other people do that.
Mhm.
But before we do that, I'd like to make sure that people know, we'll do it again at the end as well, but I'd like to make sure that people know now where they can get in touch with you, how
Yes.
they can book you for services.
So Nova Luna reads on Twitter and Instagram. I just posted new pricing today, as I mentioned before,
Great.
um, which is great. Sliding scale options are available for affordability
Mm-hmm.
reasons and things of that nature. If you want to book, email me at novalunareadings@gmail.com. And we can have a conversation about what kind of readings you want. And I'd really love to help work with you towards like a more understanding future, I guess, and more knowing
Mm.
and um, helping you figure out ways that can transform your life.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, like as a it sounds like to me, I mean, I don't know how you see yourself, but you give off, the like, you're more of a spiritual companion, you know,
Yes.
like
Yes. Yes.
a guide, like a helper, but not necessarily
Yeah.
like, I'm superior to you and bringing down this knowledge from the mountain.
I love that. My sister gave me the nickname the messenger the other day, which I really loved.
Mm.
I
Mm.
was just like, that just completely opened my eyes, and it was so good. So
Yeah, like it's amazing feeling, understanding your role as, uh, I mean, I know that people use channel in a lot of different, ways, but,
mhm.
as a messenger, as a vessel, right? Like if we're talking Aquarius stuff, I have my North Node in Aquarius, and so
Mm,
like embodying that vessel, that container, handling the water, like the spiritual water essentially,
mm,
and pouring and refilling and distributing that.
that's
um
awesome. I love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, like this is what I want people to talk about with Aquarius, you know
Yeah. Oh no, you listen, I could talk about Aquarius for so long. I mean, it's my home, basically,
mm,
Aquarius, Aquarian energy.
right.
So I could go off all day with it.
Cool. Well, yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and break there. And so we will be back in, yeah, about 5 minutes.
Cool.
All right, great. So hang tight, everybody. Be back soon. right. Hello there. You there?
Yes, I am here.
All right. Hello. Um, Welcome back to everybody. Yeah, part two today. Sitting here. If you're just coming in, we are talking to Nova Luna today, talking about numerology. And part one was great. Like, wow, I've already learned so much.
Yeah, no, and I've learned my own stuff too. Like I said, at the end of part one, I love these conversations where it just opens you up so much.
So I was gonna ask about, I think towards the end of what we were talking about there, we mentioned like community kind of at some point. So what is the like, I'm familiar with what the astrology community is kind of like, at least in the sort of section of like Twitter that I hang out on. But what's the
Right.
numerology community like?
I don't really think I've never really found a numerology community. I've seen
Oh,
different
really?
people post stuff here and
Mm-hmm.
there. But when I'm talking about numerology, I'm mostly talking with my friends that I've connected through the astrology community and a
Mm.
couple people through there that I've talked to about angel numbers and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Because really, once you have your spiritual awakening with astrology, numerology just comes really cleanly
Mm.
together, like around the same time, I feel like. So
Mm.
um, it's been mostly that, just like I'll have friends ask me, hey, what does this number mean? And I'll look stuff up and that'll be, just be like, okay, this is what things are saying, it's being said, and you just go from there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think there really is a numerology community because again, I feel like a bit more niche of an interest, which is again weird because of how common numbers and math is in this world. But that's
Mm-hmm.
just how it is, I guess.
Right. I mean, it's, you you already have access to the everybody's already familiar with numbers. I mean, it's
Exactly.
not like astrology where you have to learn all the glyphs and like learn what all the terms mean and everything. It's like here, you already know numbers. You learned numbers when you were a kid, and like now this is the way that you can learn more
Exactly.
about them.
It's that simple. And again, stuff like we were doing at Life Path earlier, that's all just very, very basic math you learn in like
Mm-hmm.
kindergarten, first grade. So
Right. And like with how, astrology is just like, fancy geometry, I guess, really.
yeah, that's what I'm like. People are like, oh, astrology isn't a science. It uses geometry. That's
Mm-hmm.
my main argument.
Right. Yeah. Like this is not just, I mean, I know that there are like intuitive astrologers out there, but, most of the system is technical and it's based on, on calculations and on some serious math. Like, I'm very impressed by people who can sit and like hand draw charts and like do all of
Oh
those
my,
calculations. Like that seems just like impossible to me.
that talent is crazy. I mean, that's what people did for up
Yeah.
until now, basically. You know,
Right,
it's
yeah, like you just maybe had an ephemeris, but you'd still have to like sit down and like, calculate house cusps and like all of this kind of thing.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, so with that relationship, like with numbers, like in both astrology and
Mhm.
numerology, like do you think that astrologers should learn some numerology?
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, you're already partially learning that with houses anyway.
Mm,
Um, because you learn about the house and then learn if you learn more about the number associated with it, I
mm-hmm,
think there's a lot of stuff that can be pieced together
mm,
and it'll help you understand, I think, systems and energies better, in my opinion.
mm,
Um, so yeah, I definitely recommend it if you are into like astrology, looking into astrology or numerology.
mm-hmm.
Um, it's so funny because like their names are so similar too. They're both ology studies of different things. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a different way of viewing the world, but like they interconnect
Mm-hmm.
pretty soundly, which is always like really cool to see. I love when stuff like that happens.
Mm. Yeah, I was gonna say like so I was trying to think about like what's kind of one of the biggest emphasis that I see in astrology on numbers, and I've seen a lot of people over the last couple of years talking about degree theory.
Yes.
And I feel like there's got to be some overlap there.
I mean, yeah, definitely. When we talk about numerology and astrology, numerology is technically a nine-number system, and
Mm-hmm.
astrology is 12 numbers, so it's similar. And then with astrology, you also have very much like Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto have like their own like planet, but also the regular number.
Mm-hmm.
10, 11, 12, you could actually use as like 10 meaning the same as 1, 11 meaning the same as 2, 12 meaning being similar to 3. Like
Mm-hmm.
that same kind of energy, but
Mm-hmm.
just a little bit different.
Mm.
Um, so it makes sense. Like both systems have that 12 number system. I mean, 12 is everywhere. Also,
Mm-hmm.
if you haven't noticed, 12 is everything from astrology, both Chinese and Western astrology,
Mm-hmm.
to music theory is all 12 based on 12 notes, 12 apostles in religious texts. So it's like 12 is such a huge number. It's a building block number as well.
Mm.
12. Um, so like it's a number that's like a good foundation, and you can see that all throughout the world. So I don't know. I just kind of love talking about that too.
That's such a good point. Yeah, like how important 12 is and how it's just
Yeah,
everywhere. Like it's just this, yeah, like basic kind of foundation. Like we've got 12 months in the calendar, and
exactly. Once a calendar. Yeah.
like 12 hours in each half of the day. I mean,
Oh, I didn't even think about that one. Yeah.
yeah, like it's wild. Um, just yeah, like you can be overwhelmed. I think that's one of the things, like when you were talking about having like a spiritual awakening, like I think being overwhelmed is kind of part of it sometimes, because it's just
Yeah.
like holy shit, like and you just see kind of like it's like the lights turning on, like if you were like in
Oh my
Space Mountain
God.
or something, or like in a club, even like the lights go on and you see all of the structures and stuff, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's very, very well put. Um, yeah, because I feel like you'll learn what I've seen from experience. You learn a little bit about things, just like a good
Mm-hmm.
base, and
Mm-hmm.
then there's just a point in time where everything changes, and
Mm-hmm.
you're never the same after. You
Mm-hmm.
really are never the same after that.
It's so true. Like, yeah, like I saw I think it was in 2018, I was talking about like I had a really hard time like kind of adjusting to my job. I was having, it was like
Mhm.
beginning my Saturn return, like which I find Saturn a lot of times, like especially if you have like a day chart like me, and like it was
Mhm.
very like here's the things that you thought that you wanted. Do you actually still want them? And I
Oh, that's
realized
interesting.
that it was like, no, this isn't actually what I want. Like, this is what I thought I needed to do to be an adult, which was, like getting a good job and like, all of this kind of thing. But I remember at some point like starting to track like angel numbers, and like, that was one of the first things that I remember like on my kind of spiritual journey, just like
Got it. Okay.
noticing all of these
So your
numbers.
your your spiritual awakening came with your Saturn return.
Yeah, yeah, for
Got it.
sure.
Okay. Got
Yeah.
it. Yeah, mine came with my 12th house perfection year. So
Mm-hmm.
a similar kind of energy, not quite the same, but I get what you mean.
Yeah,
Because that
yeah.
really felt like a Saturn return year that whole year. It really
Mm.
did.
Well,
Just
it's the
crazy.
isolation, like Saturn kind of removes you from
Oh yeah,
situations.
right. I have
That's why Saturn
I
rejoices in the 12th house.
yeah, no, I have a 12th house Saturn. So I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
So in Aries, 12th house Saturn in Aries, and in Aries degree. So
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know what?
wow.
Yeah, no, it really what now that I think about it, it makes sense that it felt like a Saturn return that entire year. That explains a
Mm-hmm.
lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it's just layers.
Oh my God, so many layers.
Um, Let me see. Oh, so let's see. Like, do you use or can you use numerology on sort of like a daily basis, like looking at the numbers for the day to kind of get a read on like what the energy is going to be?
You absolutely can. I haven't done that in a while because it's a lot to do, but
Mm.
absolutely. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I have, for example, a friend of mine. He rolls a d20 to see how every Dungeon and Dragon session is going to go, stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Okay.
Um, like that's like some like you could actually, if you just have a dice at home,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like a six-sided dice. You can get a system of like different energies, like one being the worst, six being the best, or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and just like learning, I guess, how to work with that. Honestly, my opinion, get if you were to do something like that, I think a 10-sided dice would be probably best.
Mm.
That's going to give you 1 through 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 0.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually might be the best way that I would say to look at new numbers. The other thing, actually, that's not true. There is one other thing you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So you know how we calculated the life path number earlier? You take the month, day, and year and add
Mm-hmm.
them all up. Do the same thing for each day, and you'll get the energy for that day. What number
Mm-hmm.
energy is going to be specific for that day? I think that's actually probably the best way
Mm-hmm.
to like incorporate numerology into your own life. So like today, for example, we have this is June 1st, 2022. So we
Mm-hmm.
have a 6, a 1, and a 6, which adds up to 13, and then that adds up to 4, 1 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
So today would be considered a 4 day in numerology. And 4, it's very looks like it's very 4 is not a number that I'm super familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
But 4 apparently is like a builder organizer kind of number. There's stability
Mm.
and logic.
Mm.
It's ruled by water and earth,
Mm-hmm.
which actually fits Cancer super well.
Mm-hmm.
God,
Right. Talk
fourth
about
in the fourth house.
security. Yeah.
4 being a number of protection. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, that adds up really nicely. So
Mm. And so,
there
like,
you
what
go.
about like auspicious dates as well? Like, I think about like electional kind of astrology.
Yes,
Like, would you
yes.
look at like if you had an important, have you done that before? Like, if you have an important thing, like kind of electing a date through numerology?
Um, Sometimes actually,
Mm-hmm.
if I know like some important event is coming up, I'll look at the numerology of that day and
Mm.
just be like, what kind of stuff should I expect?
Mm-hmm.
More often than not, I tend to get 5 days during big days, which again, 5 transformation, change, whatever. What a
Ah,
surprise!
right.
Um, so yeah, no, it's good to get the energies of those days. I used to track every single day
Mm-hmm.
when I was like going through my spiritual awakening, but it got kind
Mm-hmm.
of tiring after a while, and I lost track. So
Sure. Yeah, and that can
um,
be a little bit too much sometimes. Like I think sometimes at the beginning of like kind of learning any of these spiritual languages, you can get kind of too lost in it, you know.
mhm. I'm looking up a Twitter account. I'm trying to find. There was a Twitter account that I followed at one point that gave like the daily numerology. I can't
Mm.
find it. Yeah, naked numerology. The Twitter account is one lucky girl underscore 28.
Okay.
I don't. A lot of her stuff is just like very typical kind of just general messages. So I haven't looked at her stuff in a while because I've basically like outgrown that
Sure.
kind of stuff. It's very like general kind of stuff, and she puts out content like crazy.
Yeah.
But every single day for a while, every single day she posts the numerology of the day, or did at least did for a while. I'm looking to see if she does now.
Mm-hmm.
It just tells you, oh, what day is today in numerology.
Right.
So
And then
that
you
was
can
something
just
that was
take
good.
that
Yeah,
and start kind
yeah.
of
So she
measuring
mentioned
your
how today was a 4 day.
experiences.
Uh,
Ah.
New beginnings, full momentum, new ideas, and new energy. It's
Mm.
setting stable foundations. So um, yeah, like stuff like that, like looking up for like daily kind of stuff. Um, like that's stuff that's actually kind of interesting. So if you can just keep, whether it's another Twitter user or just yourself keeping track of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like that's just a good way to just get used to using numerology daily and incorporating it into your
Mm.
own life. Um,
Right. Yeah, just like recording like the number for the day, and then these are the kinds of things that happened today, and then
yep.
going back and doing a retrospective and understanding how those energies show up personally for you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you can even like put them into a calendar. Like literally, it's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Wow. Yeah, I can really see the like possibilities for, for layering. So, I mean, how do you layer it with some of the other like divinatory methods that you use?
so I guess it's very similar to what I would use. Like if I see an angel number,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of what I do, I guess, and kind of my approach, dream interpretation was actually my beginning
Mm-hmm.
of the spiritual stuff many,
Mm.
many years ago. And I work basically in symbols. So again, that numbers are just a form of symbols.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if I see something that pops out, I'll look up the meaning. So what's a good example? I'm not going to use the dream I had last night because that was a very horrific nightmare. I won't go into
Oh,
that.
geez. Yeah.
um, and I haven't looked into it anyway. I haven't had time.
Right.
Um, um, I guess my friends have learned to do this too. I guess I've kind of trained them in that regard. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use one of their examples. One of my friends saw a cat running across the road the other day,
Okay.
and she was like, "What the heck does that mean?" And so I looked it up, and basically, right now she's going through like becoming more one with her divine feminine side,
Mm.
and cats symbolize the divine feminine and
Mm.
fertility and blah blah blah. So
Yep.
it just kind of just went with her energy perfectly, and just letting her know that this is coming in,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So I do that with numbers, especially. Um, I remember product codes, by the way. Product codes, like the
Mm.
barcodes in the back,
Right.
super, super great to look at for practicing numerology because
Really?
I would say one out of every like 10 items has a number on there that's repeating. Not repeat, well, maybe not repeating, but like you'll see it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, something like 2022, for example,
Mm-hmm.
like the year that we're in now,
Right.
like seeing that in the back of a barcode, that's an angel number.
Mm.
Doesn't have to be like 222. It can be like 2022, or
Right.
sometimes I'll just look for three numbers on the back of a barcode that are the same, stuff like that, um, to try and get a better evaluation of like what my guides are saying about whatever
Mm-hmm.
situation it is. So I guess that's I forgot what we were what the exact question was.
um, I know that we were talking about like layering it with like other like divinatory practices, so like numerology and like dream interpretation, for example, or
Right,
oracle
exactly. That
readings
was
and
kind of what I
whatever.
was thinking
Yeah.
out, like the combination of like that
Mm-hmm.
symbolic process is how I use
Mm-hmm.
this, and that's how I use this, and that's how I use. That's kind of like the layering that I do. So dream
Mm-hmm.
interpretations is my base, not astrology, which is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's just looking at the symbols and how that layers everywhere. That's kind of just how I view life.
Mm-hmm.
Because symbols are everywhere. Every
Right.
single day, you will see a million different symbols.
Yeah.
Um, so,
So, how do you recommend that people? Because I think one of the things that can be overwhelming about this stuff is learning how to kind of fine tune your radio, if you will. Like, how do
mm.
you teach people to practice discernment about this kind of thing and like
Ooh, good
learn,
question. Okay.
what numbers do mean things for you and, how to actually interpret all of this data that you're receiving?
Okay. Okay. So, good example. I'm sure almost everyone had a lucky number or favorite number growing up,
Mm-hmm.
right? And um, just start there. That's literally the thing. Just start with those numbers, whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and see what those meanings are of those numbers, how those play into your life, and then go to the go to other numbers. For me, when I first started, there were a couple angel numbers that I learned the meaning of pretty quickly. Some took a lot longer to learn.
Mm.
Um, Good example, I connected with 111 straight away,
Mm-hmm.
555 straight away. Um, what other ones? 444,
Mm-hmm.
999. But then there were others like 333 and 888 that the meanings weren't so easy for me to come by. And
Right.
so those I tackled kind of later on.
Mm-hmm.
So it just became about like understanding the meaning of each number, because each number is going to resonate differently with you
Mm-hmm.
energetically, just like any other zodiac sign will resonate differently with you.
Mm-hmm.
Things like, for example, like the ranking of different zodiac signs, you might like certain numbers better. I guess
Mm-hmm.
that's a good example. Um, so that's kind of I would just take it slowly, one number at a time, I guess is the best advice I can give.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like, just like take the time to, really give them the consideration and the thought that they deserve, not just trying to sort of shovel knowledge into your brain like
Yeah.
rapid fire, which is really
Yeah.
easy to do when you're just drowned in it on the internet.
Hmm. Yeah. Also, starting with individual numbers and then the triple repeating numbers,
Mm-hmm.
which are the most common angel numbers. Don't go crazy with just like looking up like 10-digit numbers or anything. I don't do that anyway, but like, just like an example. Um, just start with the basics and work your way up like anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I said, the biggest numbers you're going to work with are 1 through 12, and then the triple repeating. Um, at least starting out. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just the way that you would just start there, because otherwise you're going to get overwhelmed so fast.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, like, like you were saying earlier, they're just everywhere. Numbers are everywhere.
Everywhere, which is ironic. It's also really ironic because I really come to detest math, like high level math, even though I've been historically been pretty good at it. It's just I
Mm-hmm.
just do not like it anymore.
Sure. Well, I mean, your relationship with numbers is, I guess, different. You're like, I don't want to
Yeah,
hang out with you guys like doing this stuff. I want to hang out with you doing this other stuff and having this different type of conversation.
yeah. I love like the simplicity of numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get stuff like calculus and things of that
Mm.
nature, I just
Mm-hmm.
cannot stand it because it's so overtly complex. I like keeping things simple and not overwhelming my brain, because my
Sure.
brain is already overwhelmed as it is.
Well, and that's the thing is not everybody needs to be good at everything or like be,
Hmm.
we each have our own kind of specific set of talents and skills
Yeah.
and purpose. So don't try to live somebody else's, when you have your own.
Yes. Absolutely. Stick with what works with you as well. If numbers don't come
Mm-hmm.
to you, that's fine.
Right.
Um, like for example, I know a lot of people that are really into Vedic astrology, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it's a struggle for me to get that because I don't have that cultural background, and
Mm-hmm.
so some people just have it innately within them, and that's
Mm-hmm.
super cool. I know for me, that's going to be something that I might struggle with a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Just an example.
Right.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like, a lot of people really click with tarot, for example, but
yeah,
card-based stuff has never been like huge for me. I've had a couple of decks, I've sat down with them, and I don't know, the conversation has never really started.
got it.
um,
For
you
tarot
know.
cards, I would start with oracle cards. That's how
Mm-hmm.
I learned. It was
I was gonna
just the
say,
meanings are literally printed on the cards themselves with oracle cards.
yeah,
So
I
that's my
luckily
recommendation to learn.
I
That was
just got
so
this
freaking
like
helpful.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because it's like it's right there. Like I got this Oracle of the Radiant Sun,
Ooh.
which is like astrology themed oracle. So I'm like, this I think is my entry point.
Yeah, that's perfect.
You
Um,
know.
Yeah, my mom had two Oracle card decks I literally just started using for readings for practice.
Oh, really? Okay.
And then I finally got like a proper tarot deck for Christmas this past year.
Mm.
I'm working with that slowly but surely. But it's going
So,
to take a while to memorize all of the meanings because there are a
yeah.
lot of
There are a
cards.
lot of right. Well, I'm really interested. So you said that your mom had those decks. So
Yeah.
do you and your family like practice, I guess, like spirituality and divination together, or?
It's like every so often, very
Mm-hmm.
I think my parents kind of my both my parents are very spiritual, so I think
Mm-hmm.
they trained me a little bit here and there. Like, they had me doing Reiki from a young age, even though I didn't know what that was at the time. Like,
Okay.
that's something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very experienced themselves with it, so I can always
Mm-hmm.
ask them questions. But I don't know, a lot of it has come intuitively as well. And I think my family, it's always when something new comes in, whether it's a
Mm-hmm.
new book or new service that I'm learning.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I practice divinity
Mm-hmm.
with them. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like that first initial thing is almost always with them, which is actually really cool.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's a safe space for you to work this
Yeah,
stuff out.
yeah. No, family is like one of the only safe spaces I have. At least immediate family is one of the
Mm-hmm.
only safe spaces I have. So
Yeah.
I use that to my advantage for sure
Yeah.
because that
Well, and
helps
that's
out
really
a lot.
awesome. Like having good family that that you can depend on because it's,
Yeah,
a lot of people. Were you saying that it was sixes or what number was it about having like some
six.
difficulty in
Yes,
family life?
six. Yeah, life path
Mm-hmm.
six.
Mm-hmm.
Or like family being important, not necessarily having a good family life, but family being very important is six.
Mm. Mm. I
Um,
see.
because six can have a lot of family issues. Almost every life path six I know has had some sort of family issue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's Newton. That kind of stuff is just pretty interesting to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and seeing how different, again, we're talking for different life paths of different things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Everyone's going to have their own journey and struggles,
Yeah.
and your life path gives kind of a roadmap for that. I feel um, like for me, being a life path five and my life just being in constant change and disarray.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what my life's been. It's been a very exciting life, but it's one that it's hard to find stability in, which for someone who is so Saturnian in is so cruel of a
Mm-hmm.
life path to have, but that's just how it is.
Right, and it's kind of up to you to, sort of be like, all right, well, this is, what I've been given. What do I do with it? How can I work with this?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it comes down to, really. Just learning how to work with your gifts and spirit, working with your spirit guides and combining it all together. And that's kind of just the life journey we're all on.
Mm-hmm.
Even for people who aren't awakened, because it's through that indirect contact.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's maybe, kind of one of those Aquarius things as well as, again with the, I know we've, been talking about the water bearer and everything and sort of being that, with family, and with people close to you, sort of
yeah,
offering them that nourishment, really, that
sure,
hydration,
sure, yeah. That's a very nice way of looking at it.
Mm,
Because not all Aquarius placements have a good reputation, so I actually kind of like that.
mm,
People say that there's kind of two types of Aquarius. There's like the type like I feel like me, like more reserved and quieter.
mm-hmm.
So we have that loud side, but we're usually pretty quiet, and that's more like stable, family-oriented kind of stuff. And then
Sure.
you have the other side of Aquarius, which is like loud and a lot more like unstable and doing all crazy things and crap and whatnot.
Right. Yeah. I wonder if it's the like Aquarius with more Capricorn placements versus Aquarius with more Pisces placements, if
That's what
you're
I'm
earlier or
thinking as
later
well.
in the season.
Actually, I don't know if it's Capricorn Pisces.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is Aquarius with more fire energy tends to
Mm.
be the one that it goes a little more off the rails, and
Yeah.
like unreserved. That's the other side of Aquarius.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you do have, with the Leo opposition there, there is definitely, I've also heard people calling Aquarius like winter Leo as well.
Yeah, it is.
With that joke. Yeah,
Aquarius Leo is so good. It's like that.
right.
That honestly, I saw a take on Twitter that it's probably the most compatible back and
Mm-hmm.
forth combo, and I
Mm.
agree because
Mm-hmm.
Aquarians are kind of known also for having a bit of a god complex, which I
Mm-hmm.
will not comment on, but I get it.
Right.
Um, and Leo's obviously, that their reputation and whatnot. So
Mm-hmm. Right. Sometimes it can be like almost being too similar to each other, and so it's like they both find each other sort of annoying, and it's like you're
yeah.
just looking at a mirror of yourself here, like my
One of my
friend.
best friends is a Leo, with an
Ah.
Aquarius moon. Leo
Mm.
Sun Aquarius moon, and we just get along so well. But man, we clash sometimes. It's really funny though.
Sure.
It's but
But
it's never in like a bad blood kind of way. It's just like really, it's just like annoying kind of energy.
but it's good, like those fixed. I really like a lot of times it seems like fixed signs have this ability to be like, I'm happy to let you kind of be wrong almost. Or like I'm happy to let you just have like this other opinion, and that it's not worth it for me to like fight about this with you. So they can be more chill in that way versus like, I don't know, like a Virgo or somebody needing to be like, you're wrong and this is why you're wrong, and I need to sit down and make sure that you know that.
That yeah no that is also most that's mostly true, I would say. I know
Mm-hmm.
when I was younger, before my spiritual awakening was in the best mental place, I was not like that. I was very stubborn.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that was my just my Sag Mercury popping off though at the
Mm.
time. I
Sure.
don't know if it was my aqua energy of just like needing to be always right. I don't. That doesn't sound very Aquarian. I feel like
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I mean, it
so.
just depends, kind of, I think, on
It
the, I
depends.
just think about the, like, the fixity, I think, of the thing is, you can have
Hmm.
sort of an Aquarius, because you have all different kinds, but it's like they're very much themselves, which is also the thing about
Yes.
Leo, is that, they are their own distinct person, and they won't
Yeah.
compromise that.
Yeah. No. That's also the thing I love about Aquarian being Aquarian this lifetime is just um how comfortable I've come to with being myself. It's been
Mm.
that's been almost the entire part of this first phase before my Saturn return,
Mm-hmm.
which is I am not looking forward to that, but you know I got a few years, so
Yeah, I mean, you'll make it,
I know
it's, yeah.
it'll be fun.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly hope that the situations around, your generation Saturn return are better than it was for Capricorn, Saturns. Uh,
I hope so too. I
yeah.
really do. I don't know if it will, but I hope so.
Yeah. I guess we'll just kind of see. So, I mean, people have been turning to astrology a lot, I think, as a comfort thing and as a self assurance thing, especially over the last couple of years. Like, can
Hmm.
you recommend like how people can use numerology in similar ways for like self like growth?
Oh yeah. The way that I've used it, which is going to sound very, very Saturnian.
Mm.
The way that I've used it is understanding my own karmic cycles that I'm working through.
Mm.
So,
Ah.
for example,
Mm-hmm.
I there was a product code at work when I did the retail work,
Mm-hmm.
that had 666 on it,
Mm-hmm.
and it was only in one corner of the store that I would be put in every so often. But
Mm-hmm.
whenever I was in the corner store, I would look up and I'd see 666, and it was basically like a timeout corner. It'd basically be like, okay, I need what do you want? What do you want with me? Basically, with like spirit guides, what do I need to work on? What do I need to think about?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, That's just how I've used it, just to understand my own situations when I see those numbers,
Mm-hmm.
um, and just understanding that piece. Or like if I'm freaking out on like for example, I do like longer road trips in the car, and those
Mm-hmm.
push me. Even though I love them,
Mm.
they push me, my
Yeah,
anxiety a lot.
I bet.
But I always see 444, which is the angel number of protection, whenever I see
Mm.
them. Um, and that's always very reassuring. So, those are just two very good examples, I guess, of how to incorporate that into your own life and understanding and um, channeling the divinity more
Mm-hmm.
in angel numbers.
Yeah. Like, I think it's, my understanding has been like that you need to, essentially kind of let whoever it is, that you consider that you're interacting with through divination, whether it's your spirit guides, your ancestors, angels,
Hmm.
insert deities of choice, right?
Hmm.
Like, it's about letting them know, like, hey, this is a language that we can share. Like, if you can speak to me through this, like, we can come closer to an understanding. So just like letting them know that, like, you're receptive to this. I think same with
Yeah,
kind of anything
absolutely.
else.
I think that was honestly, like thinking on it now, that was my main way that I connected with my spirit guides during my awakening, was
Mm.
through angel numbers, like without a
Mm.
doubt,
Yeah.
um, which is awesome. And not a system that, in hindsight, I would have expected to see, but
Mm-hmm.
now that I like am watching a number of people who are close to my life going through similar kinds of awakenings or on the road to, and
Mm-hmm.
they're starting to experience angel numbers more.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. And under like I get it like now
Yeah.
why numbers were chosen as like the quickest way for me to connect with my spirit guides because again they're everywhere.
Right. Yeah, and it's just that's the particular kind of one that, that works for you and for your group, for your, court, I guess, if you will. It's like, all right, we agree on this, like, we can work with this back and forth. Like, this is a clear line of communication that we
Yes,
have,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And I think that's really important.
Yes. Also, interesting that before I forget, interesting that
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of prices end in like 999. So like
Mm.
49.99, 99.99, things of
Right.
that nature, because those are all angel numbers, which are
Right.
interesting. Um, so yeah, we see angel numbers all the freaking time,
Mm-hmm.
uh, without even realizing it. Like all those like commercials we see as a kid on TV.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We see that from like a very, very early age. So
Yeah.
that's actually quite interesting, like how versed we are with numbers. And I mean, I feel like while technically anyone can pick up any foreign divination, or like in theory,
Mm-hmm.
because obviously we'll connect more with others. I feel
Yeah.
like numerology is one that's a lot more accessible than
Mm.
a lot of different divination forms because it's very
Mm-hmm.
straightforward
Right. Yeah, and you
and very
already have the tools. It's just there.
exactly. Yeah, and I all of my divination, it's literally just I took the tools from dream interpretations and used it
Mm-hmm.
everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how it's been, and I was very lucky that that one happened to be one that I could just worked with everything else because
Mm-hmm.
that's not always the case. But I feel very lucky in that regard that it was just like once I spiritually awoke, it just came so naturally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and you're just like, wow, like this just feels like I don't know. I mean, it's hard to describe, I think, like what it feels like to find the language and find the system or systems that work for you and that kind of
Mhm.
it's like almost like a I'm thinking about like the I think like the N64 and like maybe like the Genesis had the like expansion packs that gave you like more, power essentially, like able to handle, like more advanced games. And so it's like I feel like it's like that
Interesting.
sometimes.
Interesting.
Like it's like getting like this extra like memory pack kind of
I
put in.
love that. Yeah, I mean that's literally how I see it. It's like collecting the Infinity Stones with different forms of divination. Like legit.
Yeah, and you just get more and more powerful because you can understand more of these different layers, you know? I think it's being able to read all of these different currents and, you know, the more experience that you have with different forms, the more kind of granular detail, I guess, really you can get into, or,
Yeah.
you know, a better, a more high def view, I guess, essentially. Like, you know, I've
Hmm.
seen like the things of like, oh, here's a picture of Pluto from like, X many, decades ago, and here's one now. And it's like, super low, you know, definition and then super high definition, so that you can actually see the details and the clarity of the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you just get more detailed over time, and that's
Mm-hmm.
also a really cool um, way of seeing things.
Yeah.
And the other really cool way is just helping others who are also growing, I think is also just awesome. That's such a great feeling to see others
Yeah.
growing too. It's my favorite, honestly, my favorite feeling was seeing others grow. Like real, and
Yeah.
seeing myself grow, of course.
Right. Yeah. Just nurturing that like growth. This is Saturn stuff, right?
Yeah. Also, Jupiter is more growth, but Saturn
Yeah.
too.
Right, but like Saturn, kind of tills the field and sort of gets all the preparations in place and make
Yeah.
sure the sprinkler system is working and, that there's enough
Yeah,
people
yeah, yeah.
hired
No,
to do
I
the
get what you're
stuff.
saying. I totally agree with
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But then yeah, Jupiter actually comes and nourishes those seeds. And, I mean, this was the big deal about the Jupiter Saturn conjunction.
Yeah, well, you know what? My spiritual awakening, literally the Jupiter Saturn conjunction was what jump started my spiritual awakening.
Oh wow, okay. So that's
That was what
very
ended 2020, right?
uh-huh. And
Winter
as,
solstice. Yeah, no, that was my spiritual awakening was when that conjunction happened,
mm-hmm.
legit like a switch went off in my head. I'm not even
Wow.
joking. And the
Wow.
rest is history.
Yeah, and then here you are.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the big moment. I remember that so clearly.
Mm.
Uh, being at work, I was in all alone in one corner of the store,
Mm-hmm.
just looking outside, waiting for the conjunction to hit. And once it did, I felt like that energy shift immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest is history.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so intense. Like, and it's something that, you get the initial, hit of, and then, it continues to play out over such a long term. So, it's really exciting to
Yeah.
see what journeys people initiated during that conjunction and then seeing how they play out for the next like 20 years.
Oh my God, I can't imagine how everything is going to play itself out.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's crazy, especially because I really just entered a new phase of my life, like
Mm-hmm.
within the past week, I would say. Like Jupiter and
Mm.
Aries is like just also hit as a new phase, basically.
Yeah.
Um, and that's been pretty incredible so far.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah. So was this
I need to look
something
at
that
Aries
like
more now that I'm thinking about it, because like
right?
every time, whether it's a 12th house perfection year in Aries or
Mm-hmm.
Jupiter in Aries, like things start up, like new cycles, new beginnings. So
Yeah.
I gotta
Where's your
keep that in mind for the
Mars?
future. Like really keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess the one last thing I was curious about is like, so you were talking about like this last week has been really big in Jupiter and Aries. Do you use like anything similar to like a solar return reading to like look at your sort of a year ahead as well? Like
Um,
numerologically speaking?
yeah, no, I absolutely do that as well with like you can calculate like like we have perfectioners in astrology, you can
Mm-hmm.
calculate what energy the year is going to have for everyone just
Mm-hmm.
by calculating that year. So like 2022 is a 6 year,
Mm-hmm.
and community is becoming, I feel like, such a prevalent theme this whole
Mm-hmm.
year.
Mm.
especially with I think the U.S.'s Pluto returns. I could see like that interconnecting
Mm-hmm.
because our sense of community is completely changing
Yeah,
rapidly.
absolutely. Yeah, very rapidly. Like, gosh, especially once we get Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini.
Oh my God, Pluto and I cannot tell you how excited I am for Pluto and Aquarius. First of all,
Right? Yeah.
um, I just obviously that's going to be. I mean, as an Aquarius stellium, I can't imagine the power that's going to have for my own life.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
also just like the rapid growth of like things like technology and
Mm-hmm.
ideals and seeing stuff play out. That's going to be one of the coolest time periods we have in human
Yeah.
history. And also the people that are born with Pluto and Aquarius are going to be very special.
Oh
I
my
just
gosh.
I just have that feeling for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, and also like people talk about like the Aquarian age. I don't know when that's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
One book mentioned it. One of the very first astrology books I got mentioned probably Pluto being in Aquarius is like a
Mm.
potential start. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know how true that is, but
I mean, I could
yeah.
see it making sense with, with the Jupiter Saturn conjunction having happened. It'll be interesting seeing what happens when Pluto hits that, 0 degrees there of
Oh
Aquarius
my
and kind of brings back up all of those things that, that got initiated, sort of gives that extra kind of, yeah, like injection of heat and of,
Yeah, it's gonna be
transformation.
interesting, and that'll be like that'll get to a place where Pluto. Well, I don't know if Pluto will ever be sextile Jupiter at some point. It
Mm,
might.
mm-hmm.
I don't think so.
Mm,
There will be a point where I think Pluto will maybe possibly get squared by uh, Jupiter in
yeah.
Taurus. So
Right,
that'll be
yeah.
interesting. I have no idea what that's going to bring, but yeah, it's exciting. We live in a very very exciting time for spiritualists, because it's we're you're seeing especially this year astrology becoming mainstream very quickly,
Mm-hmm.
um, and we're at the forefront of that because
Yeah.
we got a little bit of a head start. So
Yeah, right.
uh, I, as especially as I start going into things like TikTok and YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
um, in the near future, which you can follow me there for
Yeah.
that. I'm just so excited to see what comes of everything. I know people don't really love that so many people have access to astrology because
Mm-hmm.
astrology is supposedly ruled by the eighth house, and um, like people are misusing it or misunderstanding it. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it's super cool that we're in a phase of life where astrology is becoming so mainstream, and um, I feel like all the other forms of divination might come with it too. Hopefully, that's what
Mm.
I'm hoping for.
Yeah, it's a real mixed blessing because it's like it's really nice on the one hand to be able to like have more people that I talk to that just know like their big three
Mhm.
or at least more like sympathetic to astrology, but then when I see the like Taco Bell like retro grande nachos or like take this quiz to pick like a deodorant based on your like zodiac sign, I'm like maybe we do need to hide astrology again. And I've seen, speaking of numerology, like I have seen recently some ads and stuff where they intentionally post things at like 3:33 or 4:44 or use those
Mhm.
numbers like in pricing and stuff, and so maybe
Oh
numerology
my
is going to have a
god,
similar.
I have such a pet peeve with
Yeah, how do you feel about
astrologers or
that?
divinators in general who use new like angel numbers for pricing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that rubs me the wrong way, but I hate that
Yeah,
so
it
much.
feels gross. Like I don't even practice numerology and it feels weird.
Like, no, you're misusing the energies on purpose. I do not like
Mm.
that one bit.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
because what you're doing, especially because most of the readings you're getting for like the prices aren't actually
Mm-hmm.
related to what the numbers represent, and it's
True.
I hate that so much.
Right. It's like misapplied. Like if somebody can intelligently, I guess, apply them to this stuff, then that's one thing. But I feel like a lot of people, sort of have cherry picked angel numbers, it seems like. And yeah, I mean, because that makes total sense. Like, why would you, you know, uh, align, a mismatched energy with a reading type. It's just
Exactly.
at
That's
cross
literally what those
purposes.
readings bring, and I just ugh, that's one of those things I hate. Anything like predatory and spirituality and using things the wrong
Mm,
way,
yes,
I hate that. I really, really hate that.
absolutely.
That's one of the only things I hate about astrology being so open.
Yeah,
Is just
yeah,
people misusing it.
yeah.
I can think
And
of a number of
abusing it.
accounts in that
Yeah.
regard, but I will not get into that.
Well, yeah, it's like I'm sure that you've seen similar stuff to like, it's like I'll see the most like, this applies to like six signs like sun, moon, rising,
Yeah,
Venus, you know, and then they have
no, that's not
25,000
it.
followers.
Yeah. And I want to do more. Honestly, I want to do more of that kind of stuff on Twitter, but now it's six
Yeah.
signs. That's a lot.
Right. Yeah. Right, because it's not specific, like, if
Hmm.
you have to I don't know. I mean, I don't really do like channeled message type stuff really because it's like I don't really get that. Like it's generally not, like some people are kind of a broader antenna than others.
Hmm. When
Um,
I
uh,
do when I do channel, I don't really do channel
mm-hmm.
messages very much because I
Yeah.
hate how they've basically become.
Right.
That is also very Aquarian to me, I must say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The
uh,
contrarian. Yeah.
yeah, but whenever I do divine messages, I always try and channel energy from the people in my own life that
Mm.
I that embody that sign.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm doing a reading for Aries, I think of my Aries friends. My what,
Mm-hmm.
however, I have a decent amount of close Aries friends, like three or four,
Mm. Yeah.
and like I just think of their energies and what they need to hear, and
Mm.
hopefully that resonates to other Aries. Like that's what it is. Because I like focusing on individuals rather than general
Mm-hmm.
kind of energies. Because when you focus on general, you're not going to get the most specific messages.
Right.
Um,
It's just pretty scattershot.
yeah, yeah. Now sometimes there are hits for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like especially I feel like elemental readings I've noticed like
Yes.
a lot of them lately, not for me but for friends of mine, have been like super on point. When I was
Mm-hmm.
going through my own spiritual awakening, they were very very on point.
Mm-hmm.
um, so and it's there, it's definitely there, just you gotta like piece out which ones are really good and which ones aren't.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it goes back to practicing discernment, which
Yeah.
I always harp on, as a Saturnian. It's like be discerning about the messages that you read, that you process, that you apply to yourself, like, you know, um, because it's important. It's literally your growth and your nourishment of yourself, and you want to be careful about, you would be careful about what kind of fertilizer you give to a plant. You try to be
Hmm.
careful about what you feed yourself physically, so be careful about what you're feeding yourself mentally and spiritually.
Yes, you really do have to be so careful with that.
Mm.
Like really, really be careful because there's stuff where you can be just fed all negativity and it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't help you. You need a
Right.
balance. Whenever I try and do give readings myself, I always try to find a balance. Like I'll always point out some bad stuff's there. I'll point it out, but I'll try
Yeah.
and focus on the good as much as I can
Right.
because there are a lot of good things that can come together sometimes. And you just want to try and focus on the good with that, because if you focus only on the bad, you're going to bring people down, and
Mm-hmm.
A, that's not good for business, B, that's not good for someone's confidence.
Right. Like, that's a complaint that I hear a lot about like traditional astrology, which like as somebody who practices it, I'm like, you're not entirely wrong. Like it can
Yeah.
be negative, but I see it as more in the sense of like I understand that you're going through this and it sucks
Mhm.
and here's ways to help deal with it. And so that's the thing is like focusing more on
Hmm.
like yes, there is this problem, but here are constructive ways to deal with it and ways to increase your happiness and your well-being. It's understanding that these processes are happening, and then what can you do? And like as somebody, as a spiritual companion to somebody, how can you help kind of midwife or doula them through this problem and through this situation?
Yeah, I mean that also is, I mean that's very life path 6 going back to that.
Mm.
um, yeah, no, I totally agree with you.
Mm.
And just like the whole thing with the spiritual stuff is just like helping others. I think is so key,
Yeah, yeah.
and helping people go through their own journeys because we all have our own freaking journeys. We've all been through a lot of stuff, man.
Yeah, that's really true. Like, I mean, and this is the thing about, boy, your 20s really are a gauntlet because it's like, you go through
Yeah,
that 12th house perfection year, you go through a progressed lunar return, you go through like a nodal reversal, I think, as well, like leads into your Saturn return. Like, geez.
yeah, no, 20s have been something.
Yeah,
They've been something to say the least. But you know,
yeah.
we're thriving now. Well, I wouldn't say thriving, but we're doing well now.
Yeah, right. You got your head above water, you're paddling.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I think honestly, I won't see too much major stuff until my Saturn return at this point. That's what I kind
mm,
of feel
yeah.
like. Not now because other stuff can come in, but I don't know. When that Saturn return, I think is the next big thing I'm concerned about.
Mm,
Um, the next transit, though, that I'm looking at, and I'm sure there's going to be other transits as well.
mm-hmm.
Well, just for me personally, is my Venus return. The Venus retrograde next year. I have a natal retrograde Venus, and it's going to be
Ah.
exactly opposite mine because it's in Leo
Oh, oh,
next year.
wow. Okay.
So that for me is the spot on the calendar. I'm just like I'm waiting for it now. Um,
Wow.
so yeah, we'll see how that goes. That's like the next thing. But in terms of
Yeah.
like regular transits, I mean, we still have two more Pluto conjunctions for this country. So
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna be interesting to see. And one happens 2 days before my birthday. So
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, it kind of sucks living through such historical times, I guess, but
yeah, yeah,
somebody
yeah. I
has to do
mean,
it.
if I ended up moving to Europe in a couple of years, it wouldn't surprise me. I'll be
Mm-hmm.
honest.
Mm-hmm.
But well, maybe not a couple of years. That could be
Yeah.
like a Saturn return thing, honestly. But
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
we'll see. I think it's way too early to really figure out what's
Yeah.
going on. I'm just trying to survive day by day.
Well, right, and you can't get too lost in looking forward when you need to be working here in the present to make sure that you make it
Yeah.
to that future.
Yeah, which is something that I've only really come into now, honestly.
Yeah.
Being in the present's very tough for someone so Aquarian. It really is. But
Mm-hmm.
I've learned. I've learned pretty well, I think, through
Yeah.
this awakening and everything that's come with it. So
Yeah. Well, we're coming up on 2 hours. Do you have like I don't know, final thoughts? Like, what would you, as a numerologist, like for people to take away from this?
just honestly, like just the power of numbers in general. I think hopefully listening to this, you've understood like the power of numbers more
Mm.
and how to apply it to your own life. And that's kind of a crucial aspect, I think, to our lives. Because it's
Mm-hmm.
one of those things where it's everywhere. You can practice it every day super easily. And
Yeah.
that's something that I really, really love about numerology. And I'm very, very happy I was able to talk about it because I don't get to very often. So, yeah, just I don't know. I hope numerology becomes more popular over
Mm.
time, and is up there with like astrology eventually. Um, and yeah, I think good luck to everyone on their own spiritual awakenings and journeys. It's a long road,
Mm-hmm.
but it's worth it. It really is worth it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I definitely am much more interested in it today, after our conversation. I'm like, wow, like I want to start looking at this, in my own chart, and just in my life,
Yeah.
like numerology and because you're right, they're everywhere. Numbers are everywhere,
Hmm.
Right now, like
Yeah.
I
For
have my
anyone
ast.
interested, I
Oh, yes,
do
please.
I do three services for numerology. One is
Yeah.
just a general life path.
Okay.
which is just it's $25. I talk about just kind of your own life path and the phases of your life and super straightforward kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's a oh shoot, I'm forgetting the prices now. I just updated my prices recently.
Yeah.
$50 is oh no, it's just two right now. Right. Got it. Okay, so no, never mind. I forgot I nixed the regular life path reading.
Mm-hmm.
It's just angel numbers, which is just a dice reading. Getting like some angel numbers that are very common in your life right now.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of kind of what numbers you should look for and what's important right now. And then life purpose for 100 is basically a combination of like a life path reading with like a soul purpose reading with like heart's desire reading. Like it's basically like a bunch all in one. Um, so yeah, if you're ever interested in that, again, email novalunareadings@gmail.com or message me on Twitter, Instagram, and we can work stuff out. Because I don't know, I just wanted. I'm looking forward to making this like a business where it becomes like a stable income. That's a big goal. So I
Yeah.
would, I'd love for people to jump on the bandwagon with that. And again, I do everything from dream interpretations to astrology, birth charts to tarot cards, runes, just all over.
Mm.
So definitely take a look and see if anything else might interest you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I really encourage people, like, this is part of, what I want to do here is I want to spotlight people who, may not get enough of a spotlight. Like, I have, my 11th house is Leo. So,
Hmm.
like with Sun in the ninth. So, like, I want to shine a spotlight on people in the spiritual community. And so I'm really, really glad, like, that, we were able to talk about this today because I've learned a lot.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been so much fun.
Yeah.
I get I love talking about this kind of stuff and can just go on forever. So
Awesome. Well, yeah, I definitely recommend people go and check Nova out. I've posted some links in the chat, so please go give them a follow. Look at their content, book them. If your, interest has been piqued, like mine has today, yeah, go with it. Explore numerology and Nova. It sounds like you're very ready to accompany people on this journey.
yeah, no, I when I this pricing and like figuring everything out took
Mm-hmm.
God like half a year to like put everything together with all the
Mm.
services. This is like because originally I just had basic birth chart stuff,
Mm-hmm.
oracle cards, and dream interpretations, and the numerology dice.
Mm-hmm.
And over the course of the last year through the spiritual awakening, I've gained so many others, um, which has been also just awesome
Yeah.
to see. So, um, yeah, I again, I hope some of you do book. It would be so awesome to see just like how I can help with your own spiritual journeys.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because these things need to be practiced, in order to live and to breathe. And so, having clients is a really amazing way to do that, to keep your skills fresh and sharp and
Hmm.
to use them to help people, and to put that good, I guess, energy out into the world and be, helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that is it, I guess, for today. Folks over on the Twitch side, we are gonna head over to Itarama, who is a regular co-host for the semi-interactive podcast, which I usually do. We'll be talking on Friday about donuts. So,
Ooh.
we do all kinds of stuff over here. But yeah, thank you again, Nova, so much for being here. This was a real pleasure, a real, eye-opening experience. I learned a lot, and I'm really, really grateful for you coming on here and teaching us so much and
I'm glad
sharing.
I'm glad I could be here and just like kick off this podcast. I hope this goes really really well and you get some other amazing conversations out of it. Just looking at like the upcoming topics, there are some really cool ones. So I hope those
Yeah,
talks do go super well.
awesome. Thank you. Well, yeah, I am looking forward to it, and Right. So take care, everybody. Have a great Wednesday, and I'll see you later. Bye for
All right,
now.
bye bye.